I'm getting married. My sister Melissa's voice echoed through the phone, high-pitched with excitement. I clutched my coffee mug tighter, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Josh proposed last night at Le Cirque. It was perfect. Down on one knee, champagne, the whole works. Mom's already talking about booking the plaza for next spring. Of course she was. Our mother had been planning Melissa's eventual wedding since she was in kindergarten. The fact that Josh Parker was the groom was just icing on the carefully selected, astronomically expensive cake. Josh Parker, my ex-boyfriend. The man I dated for 2 years in college before he mysteriously broke things off, only to start dating my sister 3 months later. I'm so happy for you both, I lied, watching my reflection in the kitchen window. At 32, I still got carded at bars and mistaken for a college student. Melissa called it my curse. Being the pretty sister while she was the smart one. As if you couldn't be both. So about the wedding, Melissa continued, her tone shifting slightly. I've been thinking about the bridal party. Here it comes, I thought. I just don't think it would be appropriate for you to be a bridesmaid, Sophie. Even though I'd expected it, the words still stung. Oh? It's just, you know how you are. How you affect things. Every time we go anywhere together, all eyes are on you. I can't have that at my wedding. This is my day. I thought about pointing out that I'd never tried to steal her spotlight, that I dressed conservatively, wore minimal makeup, and generally did everything possible to fade into the background at family events. But what was the point? This narrative had been set in stone since we were children. I understand, I said quietly. Don't be dramatic, Sophie. You can still come to the wedding, of course. Just not as part of the bridal party. And maybe wear something muted. Navy or brown would be good. I made non-committal noises until she hung up, then sat at my kitchen counter, staring at nothing. My cat, Oscar, jumped up and head-butted my arm, demanding attention. At least you love me regardless of how I look, I murmured, scratching behind his ears. The next few months were a blur of wedding preparations that I watched from the sidelines. Mom called daily with updates, mostly to tell me what I shouldn't wear or do at the ceremony. No bright colors, she insisted. And maybe you could cut your hair. Something less attention-grabbing. I looked at my perfectly normal shoulder-length brown hair in the mirror and wondered, not for the first time, if my entire family was slightly insane. The real bombshell dropped 6 weeks before the wedding. I was grading papers. I taught English at the local high school when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. You need to see this. Your sister isn't who you think she is. Attached were screenshots of text messages between Melissa and Josh, recent ones, very explicit ones. The problem? They were from 2 years ago, when Josh was still dating me. My hands shook as I scrolled through message after message. The timestamps didn't lie. While I was planning our future together, Josh had been sleeping with my sister. Their relationship hadn't started after we broke up. It had been the reason we broke up. More texts followed from the anonymous number, pictures of them together at a hotel, date stamp receipts, email exchanges. Someone had compiled a thorough record of their betrayal. Who is this? I typed back. Josh's ex before you. Found all this while cleaning out old hard drives. Thought you deserved to know. I sat there for a long time, Oscar purring in my lap, looking at the evidence of my sister's betrayal. Not just the affair, but the years of lies that followed. The family dinners where they'd played the perfect couple while I nursed my broken heart. The sympathetic looks from relatives who thought I just couldn't keep a man while my brilliant sister had landed him. The next day, I got a call from my mother. Sophie, darling, about the wedding. Melissa's having second thoughts about inviting you at all. I clutched the phone tighter. What? Well, she's worried you might make a scene. You've been acting strange lately, distant. And you know how you can get emotional. I thought about the screenshots sitting in my phone. About years of being gaslit and marginalized by my own family. About the perfect wedding being planned for my sister and the man she'd stolen from me. Don't worry, Mom, I said calmly. I promise I won't do anything to ruin Melissa's perfect day. I spent the next few weeks quietly preparing. I didn't protest when the wedding invitation was rescinded. Didn't argue when Melissa told mutual friends I was too jealous of her happiness to attend. I just smiled and focused on my work and adopted another cat. A beautiful white Persian I named Lady. But every night, after my students' papers were graded and my cats were fed, I worked on my plan. I had evidence of a years-long deception. The question was, what would hurt more, revealing it before the wedding and stopping the ceremony, or waiting until after they'd said their vows? The answer came 3 days before the wedding, at what should have been the rehearsal dinner. I wasn't invited, of course, but the screenshots from that evening found their way to my phone anyway. Melissa, radiant in a designer dress, toasting her perfect love story. Josh, handsome in his tuxedo, describing how he'd known she was the one from the moment they met, conveniently leaving out that he'd been dating her sister at the time. And then the final straw, my mother's speech about how Melissa and Josh were meant to be and how wonderful it was that they found each other at the right time. I looked at my cats, curled up together on my couch, then at the stack of evidence on my coffee table. What do you think? I asked them, before or after? Oscar yawned. Lady blinked her blue eyes lazily. I picked up my phone and started making calls. If I was going to crash a wedding, I was going to do it right. 2 days before the ceremony, I visited my favorite salon. Not for a dowdy haircut as my mother had suggested, but for subtle highlights that made my brown hair shimmer gold in the light. I booked a spa day, had my nails done, and went shopping. The dress I chose wasn't navy or brown. It was a deep, rich burgundy that made my skin glow and my green eyes pop. Not white. I wasn't that tacky, but absolutely guaranteed to draw attention. You can't avoid photographs in this, the boutique owner warned me. I smiled, thinking of the photos and screenshots carefully organized on my iPad. That's rather the point. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. I took extra care with my appearance. Elegant makeup that enhanced rather than concealed, hair styled in soft waves. The burgundy dress fitting perfectly. My hands should have been shaking as I drove to the plaza. My heart should have been racing as I walked through the lobby. Instead, I felt oddly calm. Years of being the family scapegoat, the pretty face without a brain, the emotional one who couldn't be trusted not to make a scene. It all led to this moment. I checked my reflection one last time in a gilded mirror. Ready or not, I whispered to myself, here comes the truth. The security guard at the ballroom door started to stop me. My name had been removed from the guest list. But then my mother's personal assistant spotted me. Sophie. Janet's eyes widened at my appearance. You're not supposed to be. I know, I said smoothly, but I have something important to contribute to the ceremony. You might want to find a good seat. She started to protest, but I was already moving past her into the ballroom. Heads turned as I walked down the aisle, whispers following in my wake. I caught a glimpse of my mother's horrified face, of Josh's sudden pallor, of Melissa's fury as she spotted me from the bridal preparation room door. I took a seat in the front row, directly opposite where my parents would sit, and waited. The truth, like my burgundy dress, was about to make quite an entrance. Part 2. The wedding planner tried to approach me twice, no doubt to ask me to leave, but something in my calm demeanor seemed to unsettle her. My mother was frantically whispering with my father near the entrance, shooting worried glances in my direction. I smiled serenely and opened my clutch, checking that my iPad was ready. The string quartet began playing right on schedule. Guests settled into their seats, the excited murmur of conversation filling the ornate ballroom. I could hear snippets of whispered speculation about my presence, about my dress, about what drama might unfold. Josh appeared at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo but noticeably pale. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw the flash of fear cross his face. He knew me well enough to know I wouldn't be here without a reason. The bridesmaids processed in wearing the pale pink dresses Melissa had chosen. I recognized most of them, college friends, cousins, and our youngest sister Amy, who'd been deemed plain enough to be included in the bridal party. Amy caught my eye as she passed, giving me a slight nod. She at least had always seen through Melissa's manipulations. Then the music changed to the bridal march and everyone stood. Melissa appeared in the doorway on our father's arm, resplendent in a custom Vera wine gown that probably cost more than my yearly salary. She looked beautiful, I had to admit, right up until she spotted me and her face contorted with barely concealed rage. I remained seated as she passed, earning more whispers from the crowd. Let them whisper. They'd be doing much more than that soon enough. The ceremony began traditionally enough. The officiant spoke about love and commitment, about honesty and trust. Each word seemed to hang in the air like an accusation. When he reached the familiar "speak now or forever hold your peace" line, I saw my mother tense, probably expecting me to jump up with some emotional outburst. But I waited. This wasn't the moment. Melissa and Josh exchanged their vows. Beautiful, heartfelt promises of faithfulness and devotion that made me want to laugh at the irony. They exchanged rings. They were pronounced husband and wife. It was only after their first kiss as a married couple, as they turned to face their guests with triumphant smiles, that I stood up. "I'd like to offer my congratulations," I said clearly, my voice carrying in the sudden silence. "And I have a special presentation for the happy couple." Before anyone could stop me, I pulled out my iPad and connected it to the ballroom's professional AV system. Courtesy of a very helpful tech I'd befriended during my preparation, the giant screens meant for displaying wedding photos flickered to life. "Sophie, don't you dare," Melissa started, but it was too late. The first screenshot appeared. A text conversation between her and Josh from exactly 3 years ago. The timestamp was clearly visible. "Josh, miss you already. Last night was amazing, Melissa. We have to be careful. Sophie suspects something. Josh, I'll break up with her soon. Just need to find the right moment. Melissa, make it believable. We can't start dating too quickly after." The crowd gasped. I clicked to the next image. Photos of them together at a hotel, dated 2 weeks before Josh broke up with me. Then email exchanges. Hotel receipts. A 2-year trail of deception laid bare. Since the bride and groom chose to rewrite their love story, I said into the shocked silence, I thought everyone should know the original version. How they really found each other, while Josh was still dating me. Chaos erupted. Melissa was screaming something about security, but her voice was drowned out by the reactions of their guests. Josh's parents, who had never quite warmed to Melissa, were on their feet demanding explanations. My mother had collapsed into her chair, while my father stood frozen, staring at the evidence of his favorite daughter's betrayal. "You crazy bitch," Melissa shrieked, starting toward me with her bouquet raised like a weapon. "You're just jealous. You've always been jealous." "Jealous?" I laughed, and the sound carried clearly through the stunned ballroom. "Of what?" "Your affair with my boyfriend. Your need to lie and manipulate to get what you want. The way you've made our entire family complicit in your deception." "It wasn't like that," Josh tried to interject, but I turned to him with a cold smile. "No. Should we show everyone the messages where you told me you needed space to find yourself, while you were actually finding your way into my sister's bed? Or maybe the ones where you two laughed about how stupid I was for not figuring it out sooner?" More screenshots appeared on the screens. The truth in black and white, impossible to deny or explain away. I've spent years being told I'm too pretty, too emotional, too much of a threat to Melissa's happiness. I continued, addressing the shocked guests. I've been excluded from family events, asked to make myself less noticeable, even uninvited from this wedding, all to protect her ego. Meanwhile, she and Josh have been living a lie, making me the fool in a perfect love story. Amy had moved to stand beside me, her bridesmaid's bouquet discarded. "It's all true," she added quietly. "I caught them once before Sophie found out. Melissa threatened to ruin my college applications if I told anyone." The wedding planner was frantically trying to restore order, but it was too late. The perfect facade had cracked, and the ugly truth was spilling out for everyone to see. Our mother finally found her voice. "Sophie, how could you? This was your sister's special day. How could I?" I turned to her, feeling years of suppressed anger rising. "How could you, Mom? You knew, didn't you? About the affair, about all of it. That's why you've spent years trying to minimize me, to make me less of a threat. It was never about me being too pretty. It was about protecting your perfect daughter's perfect lie." Her silence was all the confirmation the guests needed. Melissa had stopped screaming and was now crying dramatically, her expensive makeup running down her face. Josh stood awkwardly beside her, looking like he wanted to disappear. Their perfect wedding had transformed into a public exposure of their true characters, and there was no going back. I gathered my things calmly, enjoying the irony that I was the most composed person in the room. "I'll leave you to enjoy your reception," I said sweetly. "I'm sure you have a lot to discuss. Oh, and Josh, the next time you decide to cheat on someone, you might want to delete your evidence more carefully." As I walked out of the ballroom, head held high in my attention-grabbing burgundy dress, I heard the chaos escalate behind me. Accusations, explanations, recriminations, the soundtrack of a carefully constructed lie finally falling apart. Amy caught up with me at the elevator. That was magnificent, she said, grinning as she kicked off her bridesmaid shoes. Want to get a drink? I thought you'd never ask. We ended up at a small bar a few blocks from the plaza, still in our wedding finery, sharing a bottle of champagne and years of pent-up stories about Melissa's manipulations. Amy had seen through it all but had been too young and powerless to do anything about it. Now, at 25, she was finally free to speak her truth too. What happened with the wedding gift you bought them? She asked, signaling for another bottle. I smiled. I donated it to a domestic violence shelter. Seemed more appropriate than letting them enjoy it. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Melissa and Josh still got married. They could hardly back out after the very public exposure, but their perfect dream wedding was forever tainted by the truth. Many guests left before the reception, including Josh's parents, who were overheard saying they'd always known something wasn't right about how their son and Melissa got together. My mother didn't speak to me for 6 months, though I couldn't say I missed her attempts to dim my light. My father, surprisingly, reached out after a few weeks. We met for coffee, and he apologized for years of enabling Melissa's behavior. I always knew you were strong, he said, stirring his coffee absently. But I never realized how strong until today. I'm sorry we made you feel like that was something to be ashamed of. Melissa and Josh moved to Boston shortly after the wedding, unable to face the whispers and changed perceptions in our social circle. Last I heard, she was pregnant with their first child and still telling anyone who would listen that I made everything up out of jealousy. But the screenshots don't lie, and several wedding guests had recorded my presentation. The truth has a way of living on, especially in the digital age. Amy moved in with me temporarily after the wedding, finally breaking free from our mother's manipulative influence. We'd adopted a third cat, a scrappy rescue we named Truth, and started building the kind of honest, supportive relationship sisters should have. As for me, I'm still teaching English, still getting carded at bars, and still refusing to dim my light for anyone. My students sometimes ask why I smile when they're reading The Picture of Dorian Gray or studying themes of appearance versus reality in literature. If they only knew. Last week, I received an invitation to my cousin Kate's wedding. The note attached read, "Please wear whatever you want, the brighter the better." Some of us have learned from Melissa's mistake. I'm thinking of wearing red.